know Prakash, and Joylo has done a reasonable amount of work with Mastic, besides his other activities, and he goes back a long way as a close friend long ago with one of our other co-founders, Sundarat. This is indeed a great opportunity. I have not got any, sorry to disappoint you guys in some ways, I do not have any standard talk that, or a PowerPoint or anything like that that I'm going to deliver. What I thought I would do is, personally I prefer a question and answer kind of a interactive session, because that way I can cover, or one, I have to prepare less. That always helps. And number two, it hopefully it stimulates discussion in the areas that you are interested in. So the onus of making the session beneficial is on your shoulders. I'll contribute my bit to it. So before I start, I'll just give a brief introduction of Mastic and the company, what we do, and the journey at Mastic so far, just to give a kind of context to you folks. And then I will stop there, and then you can pretty much guide it in whichever direction you folks want to get. Okay. Mastic was one of the early IT companies, started in India. We were four of us from Ahmedabad who were all 1 year junior to Prakash sir. Two of us were in the same dorm as Prakash sir was at that time. And in the second year at IIM, we said that we would do something on our own, that we would start a company on our own. There were three of us, Ashank Desai, Ethan Mehta, myself. And we didn't quite know what we were going to start, but we were clear that we wanted to do something on our own. So the whole of second year, we spent a lot of time at IIM, after classes, just discussing about how do you do something on your own. And then we changed our mind a little bit. We said, instead of starting something on our own directly after college, we said we would work for 2 years and get some capital, which would help us to at least survive for some time without cash. So we decided to work for 2 years, and I'm happy to report that my career working for someone was exactly 2 years. I started working at Hindustan Computers 1st of June, 79. Worked till 31st of May, 81. And started Mastic. Exactly 2 years. Now, the great thing about our association, I think, is we were three of us who got together at IIM, had a dream, and we also had the opportunity to convert that dream into reality, to actually go out there. So we started this company in 81, and one of the early, there was a time when Wipro also started up. Most of the IT industry was at that time, in some sense, relatively being born in the Indian context. And after that, I think it's been a great journey for us. We've gone through a fair number of things. First, focused on the Indian market, and then we turned our attention to global. We introduced products in India when the PC was introduced, which was, I'm sure, when none of you people were. It kind of tells how old we are. So we introduced a fair number of packaged products in the Indian market. At that time, the Indian market was not quite, computer, not savvy, I would say. At least it was not dominated. The penetration of computers was not as much as it is today. So we introduced a lot of new products, innovative services, well before lots of products became a fashionable thing in India. In fact, we built an accounting package for India way back called Finance, which we sold over 1,000 installations all over India, actually. we had a very popular stockbroking system for stockbrokers. Again, we dominated the market pretty well in both Mumbai and Delhi. And this was all before Tally. Our thing was, I think today, I would say accounting packages, Tally is pretty much the local, Tally came well after we did. So in some sense, we have been always on the leading edge of things, whether it is technology, whether it is IT waves, we've been on the leading edge of things. And our association among the four of us continues to this day. So one of the things I would say I am particularly proud of is the fact that we've stuck together for 30 years and we work closely with each other, and we have the same relationship as we had 30 years back. So which I think is itself pretty remarkable. Now, during the course, we started focusing on the Indian market, and then we moved on to the US market. Before we went to the US, we were in the Asia Pac market for some time. And then we penetrated the US market. My stint in Mastic was, I was telling Prakash that even though I've been 30 years in this industry, 30 years seems like a long time, all of a sudden. The first 5 years were pretty much in the Indian market, growing Mastic within India. The next 5 years was beginning to explore the international market. So I used to keep traveling around, moving around to the US, UK, other countries. So in that sense, it was again startup in a different way. That is, how do you go and meet new people, new countries, and tell them what it is that you do and why they should care about a company that is started in India. And the next 5 years, I was in the US, tackling just the US market, and then 92 to 97, I was again just focused completely on the US market. We set up the Mastic operation in the US, and we did it, or I was the first person to go there, so I did it pretty much the same way as we did it here. We just landed up in the US and said, okay, let's start doing the company here. Because at that time, there was not a whole lot of foreign exchange available to invest in, if you wanted to do something abroad. So you had to bootstrap it pretty much from scratch. So I did that between 92 to 97. 97 onwards, we hired a CEO for the US operation, and I went out and did a startup in the Silicon Valley. Went and raised money from venture capitalists. That was pre-internet boom times. Did a lot over there. Raised over $20 million and spent that I never spent that much money in such a short time. In 18 months, ran through $20 million plus. And then I bought back that company. That company still continues. Then came back to India. Just a couple of years back, to be again operational within Mastic on the product side of things in the insurance market. Now, Mastic traditionally has been what I would say a very, very different kind of an IT company. We've always loved to be in the latest and greatest. So we've done a lot of things on the internet when the internet was just starting up in 98, 99. And we believe that, just as an overall canvas, we believe there are three waves that IT companies in India have in a global perspective. The first wave was, we call the mid-80s to the mid-90s, if you will, was establishing India as a credible place where software, that we have the skills, we can do software, was kind of the thing that the industry had to prove. That was the first phase. The second phase was about what we call as labor arbitrage, which is purely where a lot of the work started coming into India, and what the Indian industry in some sense was doing was providing a very efficient and effective way of building software at a third the price what it would cost these companies overseas. So it was what we characterize as wave 2, which is labor arbitrage, where you had a competitive advantage because you were in a low-cost country. And we believe the real opportunity for India lies in wave 3, which is moving away from labor arbitrage to value delivery, where we are talking about providing the best software, products, services to be the global leaders in that particular product or service that you offer. And being a wave 3 company, and we believe that Mastic is a wave 3 company. So we say we were a wave 3 company right from the day one, waiting for wave 3 to happen. And so we look forward to the future with great degree of optimism, because we believe that the time has come for companies to be positioned in this manner. So I will stop with that brief introduction and just throw it open to the class, and I'm happy to answer any questions in any direction, whether it is entrepreneurship, whether it is Mastic, whether it is whatever.
So before 1991, what are the changes your company faced? Is there was total change in the phases? Like pre-1991, post-1991. Can you just share your experiences?
Okay. Okay. I don't think 91 was a remarkable year, but it was not that dramatic as you're making it up. And I'll explain purely from a Mastic context. Definitely before 91, I think the industry was very nascent. At that time, if I look at it purely from a Mastic perspective, we were focused on the domestic market. So we were serving the multinationals, we were serving building custom software from scratch for all kinds of companies. And we had come up with products like I was saying, accounting, stockbrokers, so on and so forth. At that time, we had also taken money from, we were one of the first few venture funded firms in India by TDICI. So we had taken a lot of money, reasonable amount of money from TDICI, which was offshoot of ICICI. And that money was to build an ERP product for the Indian market. So we invested a fair amount of money building a world-class ERP product. Come 1991, great things happened. We realized that you cannot build a product for the Indian market alone. Because with the change in 91, anything that you do has to be global. So the first thing that we had to do was scrap our product. Which we did. I mean, we did take it to market and then we had to scrap it, because tackling the Indian market with an ERP product is something, tackling the global market is something else. So that was one follow-up of the 91 liberalization movement. The second fallout was positive, was we were, as a company at that time, and I think Indian companies, a lot of them, were more on the leading edge of IT than a lot of our counterparts in the rest of the world. And there's a reason for that. Those of you who are mid-80s, India did had banks were standardized on Unix. That happened in late 80s, kind of. And when Unix was not very popular in the US or in any of the advanced markets. Unix was not popular. It was an outlier system. Later on, it came into mainstream. So relational databases like Oracle, Ingress, all those new technologies which India has gained a lot because we were not computerized, we didn't have all of these old monstrous IBM systems. Okay, so there was no legacy, so we could go straight into the latest stuff. And that happened thanks to IBM quitting India in early 80s, gave the domestic industry a chance to catch up. And then 90s was perfect, because that meant that the industry had to grow up to be global competition. In fact, in one way, the 91 was good, because that is the only thing which truly made us think global. So it went through these 3 phases. So just like cell phones today, I think India gave landlines a complete pass. We straight jumped into the latest stuff. So same thing happened in IT. We were, I mean, if you were talking databases, if we were talking Unix, we were in the forefront. And that's how I could, set up Mastic in the US with nothing. I mean, just land up there and say, yes, we know this stuff. We know we can do it. Try us out. So, and all that is an outcome of the liberalization. If we were closed, we would not have had exposure to any of that. So, long answer, sorry.
So what change do you find in the current entrepreneurs? So like you see new entrepreneurs coming in. What is the change now and what was the change when you started? I mean, what's the change? The scenario?
I think one great thing which has happened, I think, is the current scenario is entrepreneurship is accepted in India. It's I always say that if there are entrepreneurs in movies, that means that that particular profession has arrived, meaning it is acceptable to the mainstream. So I can say that definitely all of us who started Mastic, we were all from middle class families. And actually, I remember at least the early days when we started, people would say, oh, you're doing something on your own, you can get a job, must be. So that was kind of, why would you do something on your own? Okay. It was considered, and in fact, all of us, all 3 of us who started got married also within a short time for starting the company. And I remember we had gone somewhere and someone else was saying, how did someone give you their daughters? You guys have nothing. And that is true. That is exactly what it was in the 80s. When you started something, you could be a trader, you could run your shop, you could do some of that. Or you could take over a family business. But starting something new was like, something must be wrong with you. That was kind of the stuff. From that kind of mindset, I think today it has changed. Today it is, I think people say, hey, it's cool, it's good. Who's starting? I'm saying I see a lot more enthusiasm among youngsters. I see socially it is acceptable, and it should be. Because one of the great things about Silicon Valley is that, and I mean, unfortunately, I cannot quite convey the texture of what it is in Silicon Valley. If you are in the valley, it's a place to be. Just like it's like a temple. I mean, when you go to some of the temples, there is an energy there. There is a difference in that whole place. The Silicon Valley is exactly that. If you go to the Silicon Valley and you live there for even 2 years, and if you don't start up something, there's something wrong with you. You will never start up. Because it's just that kind of an atmosphere. Everyone you meet is either thinking of or has started or looking to start, or so entrepreneurship is celebrated in a very, very big way in the valley. And I think in India it's getting there. It's not quite there at that level, but it's definitely entrepreneurship today is more acceptable than it was in the past. So I think whoever is thinking of starting something on their own, I think the hurdles are lower. The challenges are still the same. I mean, I don't think anything gets easier. Starting something on your own is a tough task.
what were the factors that motivated you, and what were the factors that came into your way as a hurdles, and how did you overcome those as an entrepreneur? Why did you think of starting?
Why did we think of starting? That's craziness. I mean, there's nothing right about starting. You know, everyone has, it's not, starting something is not necessarily the best thing or the greatest thing. It is a thing, okay? It is an alternative, and we chose that. Okay, now why we chose that, we hard to say. You know, why that was the option and not something else. I really don't know. I can't, definitely answer that in a very honest way. But one thing was certain, we were clear that we would start something on our own. We were very clear. And for us, the role models at that time were a lot of IIM grads who had left before us and had started. Rediffusion advertising was one of them. Ajit Balakrishnan and Arunanda were definitely a source of inspiration for us to start our own. And then there was another company called NBA, Market and Business Associates, which is again a firm started by IMA. So we went and met them. We chatted with them. They were a source of inspiration, if you will. So beyond that, I cannot say why we started on our own.
Did you have any passion about it or anything?
You cannot start something on your own without a passion for it. Absolutely not. I would say that all of us, even to this day, we've been 30 years in this industry, and if there's anything I can convey to you folks today, I'd like to leave you with, I'm still as passionate. We are all still as passionate about software and the role of what India can be in the world as we were 30 years back. So that doesn't go away. There has to be that passionate commitment, and it comes through. Okay. For us, I can definitely say this, all our families, definitely my family and Ketan's family, were like, okay, these guys want to start something on their own, they'll get over it. We'll let them start, and then we'll see in 2 years if they don't make it, they can always get a job, right? So they will find, so sense will prevail among our kids. That was kind of the parents' thing, right? So you want to do it? Do it. We'll see. But for us, I can say this definitively, for all of us, it was very clear that we had to make it work. We never thought about anything other than, we never for a moment thought that we would go back to working somewhere. Not for a moment. We knew that was a fallback, that is a safety net which is there. Because I can say this, definitely the first 8 years or 9 years, we never had any difficulty finding business, fortunately. Right from day one, we've always had business. Right from our first contract was a company called Procter & Gamble today. It was called Richardson in those days. It was a manufacturing software that we built for them in 3 months flat. Right from that to large projects like we've handled in London, or the Mastic today does the NHS Spine program, which is a mammoth program for national health in UK. So business was never a problem. We always got business. The first 8 years, 9 years was a little tough in terms of making money. We had business. We could always pay our employees, not a problem. But we couldn't take too much for ourselves. But we never were in difficulty at any point. Okay, we were never in great abundance of cash at all, but we were never tight either. So challenges, people used to say in the early days that, hey, to get business in India, you have to bribe, you have to be cut up. I can hardly say we had to do none of those things. Absolutely none of those things. Because I guess we were kids at that time, not now. So that is the great thing about the city of Bombay, I would say. If you have an idea, if you are committed to it. Great companies gave us. We had Unilever as a client, we had Citibank as a client, we had, you name it, all the multinationals, we had them as clients. And we didn't have to do, so to answer your thing on challenges, It was just that we had to persist with it. There was nothing. I mean, we had to work hard, but that's a given. That's a big deal.
In the 1981 when you started the company, Indian IT industry was at nascent stage or it was just born.
Yeah.
So at that point of time, what made you go for the IT industry? Why not for any other?
A good question. Actually, that has been one of the strengths of Mastic. I mean, we, as the four of us, if you say what is strong, what stands up, what we think we are good at, is in identifying future trends. We picked IT would be big even in 81. It was a conscious decision. That was not by accident. We felt that industry would go, and the name Mastic stands for Management and Software Technology. And the reason we coined it is that because software is not for software alone. Software has to make business impact. It's got to transform business. Okay. And that is the name. That's why we chose the name Management and Software Technology. We became Mastic. And to this day, that's our name. Okay, so we picked IT to be sunrise industry, if you will. And I worked 2 years in HCL. And again, I have the greatest respect for HCL, Shiv Nagar, Arjun Malhotra, all stalwarts. I mean, remarkable people who made a new industry happen. So you were right there and seeing the birth of a new industry. So IT was similarly, I think, in terms of trends, we've relational databases, Oracle, Ingress, these are technology trends. We picked that these would become popular well before anyone else caught on. So that's how we built our US business, by specializing. And then CRM, and I don't know how many of you know about CRM, but we picked CRM as a front runner way back in '97, when the word CRM was not coined. Okay, it was called Salesforce automation at that time. And then so anyway, I'll stop there. So to answer your question, I would say that picking trends is, I mean, different people have different strengths. Our strength definitely is in picking trends well before it becomes a trend. If everyone is talking about it, it's not that it's over, but also it's kind of.
What feature trend do you see now?
Huh?
What feature trend do you see
The
now?
top outside.
I think one of the most dynamic field. The moment you launch market, there are several companies who have faced like that product is already absolute, obsolete. So how do you manage these changes in IT?
I think that is a given in every industry today. I mean, IT may change a little faster, but at the same time, I think nearly every industry is going through cycles which are fairly dramatic. I mean, so to answer your question, if you have an idea, don't think you're the only one who's right. You can say, it doesn't matter how creative your idea, how innovative your thing, you can be sure there are at least 3-4 people doing something about it. There are possibly 1,000 people who have that idea. Okay? But most people don't act on ideas, it just remains. Okay? But you can be sure, dead certain, that there are at least 4 people who are working hard on that idea. So whatever be your idea, be very clear that there are at least 4 people you're going to compete against. And the question is, how are you going to win? Against whoever is unknown. So you've got to be prepared for that. So if you think that you're going to have a window where you're going to be only shown up, I think those days are absolutely gone. Previously, because of the physical limitations you could have, that you could be in one market without the rest of the world knowing you could try something there. Today, even those barriers are gone. So to answer your question, you have to be prepared for it. There is no other. So just knowing is good enough. I mean, then you do whatever you do.
Can I say something over here? You see, anybody in the class plays bridge? Anybody plays bridge? You guys good?
Come on, how come?
No, see, in bridge, for example, once you bid and close the bid, you got a sense of the lay of the cards based on the bidding. You have to assume that the cards lie the way you need them for you to win.
To win. That's a good analogy. Excellent analogy. Because you cannot assume, you cannot underestimate the competition, neither can you overestimate yourself. Because, I mean, that luxury is completely disappeared for everyone. And if you'll see that, you'll see the way. I mean, even, in fact, the biggest challenge I would say, in some sense, is being early to a point. You can.
May I ask, Sundarat? You have the strength of entering early in citing the trends and citing the future fast. But has that culminated into the further market benefits?
Yeah, good. Thank you for that question. If you actually put two and two together and say, hey, if you guys were so great at spotting stuff, then how come you're not the largest company around? Yeah, and we're not. Absolutely not. We're not. And sometimes the strength can be a weakness too. Because we love to be on the leading edge of a lot of things. We love to do new things. So we get bored. So then you start doing something else. So that's not good. We realized that about ourselves somewhere around, I would say 2003, 2004, that, I mean, it was a long time to realize that, but we said, you know what, we are great at spotting stuff, we build stuff on that, but, you know, we're always looking for the next great stuff, maybe we should stop. And so, I don't know whether that answers your question,
Yeah.
but some of the things that I say there is great discipline needed, you know, in all phases of growth of a company. There are some sort of, there's a set of challenges that you have when you have an idea and you're trying to make it real. And then, so, I mean, I don't know too much about other industries to give you the specific breakpoints, but in IT companies, I can give you specific breakpoints. There is a big, this thing to start and hit, let's say, an annual revenue of about $2 million, $3 million. Okay, this is about 10 crores. How do you get your business from 0 to 10? It requires a certain kind of, you know, talent, a certain kind of management. And then the next break point usually comes 20 million. 3 million, 20 million, 100 million. And then 500. These are all gates where the texture of the organization undergoes dramatic change. So first is prove the idea, then prove that you can scale it, then prove that you can really, so you're squeezing different things, and it requires different management style. It's not the same thing that works. Like, and I'm sure, I mean, you would, and we are fortunate. I mean, frankly, it's, the one thing I would say, definitely looking back at ourselves, is that we never worked for anyone. So we had to discover a lot of stuff on our own. So, which is good and bad. You know, and there are some bad to it as well. So
how do you see internet as a future in India, and especially while the rural market is now offering?
Prashant, I don't think everybody else can hear you. You can speak louder.
So how do you see internet as a tool for business, or how do you perceive internet in future?
I mean, this is again just my personal opinion, and this, I believe I'll cover the internet and I'll cover India as a country. So, I think the internet is obviously there to stay. Prediction has been that bandwidth will cease to be a problem long time back. In the US today, bandwidth is not a problem. You have enormous amount of bandwidth. In India, obviously, bandwidth is a problem. But those are what I call as temporary things. These are not going to last for a long time. So it will go away. It will go. It will take some time, but it will go. So what that's going to mean is that internet is going to be ubiquitous even in India. It will. It's just a matter of time. Someone may say 2 years, someone may say 10 years, but give or take, it's going to happen. Number one. Number two, this is my personal opinion, that internet, even abroad, has impacted personal lives a lot more than corporate life. Just think about this. This is a dramatic, it is a technology which has gone the reverse way. Meaning, if you look at computers and the like, or IT kind of stuff, technology usually first hits the corporates, the business space, the business consumers, and then it may change in the personal. Personal computer came after the business computer. The business market was tapped. Whereas the internet is going the other way. If you see an average office worker, okay, and you ask them what they were doing in '99, how they used to work. They go to the office, they connect to the computer, they connect to the network, they print, they do stuff. But if you see the way they're working, it's working a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little more, interesting things happening. But it's not fundamentally changed in the last 10 years or 15 years. The same thing you ask an average person at home, how do they use computers over the last 10 years? It has changed. I mean, how many of you, I'm sure most of you are carrying your, if you're flying, you're carrying your tickets or your, on your mobile. You're getting your, I mean, you weren't doing that 10 years back. Okay. You're checking email almost maybe once a day. Okay. You're taking your pictures, uploading them, all kinds of free software that is there. Right? That kind of a dramatic change has not happened in the workplace. So I believe the future of the internet is in consumers. It's with how people are going to change their day-to-day lives. And you're already beginning, I'm stating possibly the obvious, but the one remarkable thing I find at least that it's gone the other way with the internet. Business is lagging behind. I don't think businesses have quite adopted the net on its potential as the consumers have. The kind of applications that are, right? So the internet definitely is going to be big in India. No two things about it. And the second thing I'd like to cover is India is a great market. So far, I would say the business models in India have been pretty straightforward. I mean, not straightforward, but if you were to look at it and say, hey, what should I do in India? Right? 10 years back, 15 years back. What should I start in India? How can I be successful in India? The thing is to be, go abroad, pick up the greatest idea which is there, okay? Right? And then this will happen in India with a time lag, whatever. So you had a perfect way of predicting the future in India, in some sense. You could capitalize on it. Whereas I believe the opportunity today is exactly the opposite. Okay? And this has been written about in gold at the bottom of the pyramid. Okay? Today, when you look at healthcare, when you look at insurance, when you look at education, housing, okay, India has huge problems. None of these are very easy problems to crack. But if you can crack that problem, that is something the world is looking for solutions on. So you should crack the problem in India and then export it worldwide. That is the opportunity that is there. Whether it is low-cost healthcare, whether it is, so I believe the rural population, today if you come down and say, I know how to sell insurance to the rural masses. Like today, if you see what is the strength of Bharti, they can provide the lowest cost service. They can take over the world. And they will. Because you've honed your strength on being able to be competitive and affordable in India. And it seems like a lot. But that is the opportunity. That is clearly there.
So, as you have worked in US and India, so what is the difference, or what are the similarities disparity that you see in the market there and here? And why do you say that now innovation will score from India?
Should. I'm saying the opportunity is there. I'm not saying it will. But whenever there is opportunity, there you can be sure that there are some people who are already working on it and they will make it happen. It may be 25 years before we begin to start seeing some of that stuff. But it will be there. Those opportunities are not going away. It will happen. Coming down to the basic question, what is the difference between India and the US? There's one marked difference, if I were to say. Two or three come to mind. One is we should respect that they have been doing business in a very structured way for years and years and years. There is a wealth of experience and models and knowledge which is there in the US, which is unparalleled. However much mature India may become, we have to catch up on that. They have a tremendous edge in that area. For example, I don't know, I believe the previous session was market research. How many of y'all have seen these infomercials? I'm sure you've seen it on TV, right?
Yeah.
Where they're selling home channel, they'll sell the next product, the next product, the next product. Do you know that they have predictive models in the US 25 years back? I'm not talking about now, 15 years back, 20 years back. So they know when they bring out a product and they showcase that, they know exactly how many people will call. They can predict how many callers will call. Okay, so how did they get that? They got that because they have done this so many times. They have data. So they can say, so when a particular session is not going so well in terms of sales, they know, oh, bring out that product, put it on, next 4 minutes, sales will go up. So that is the level of data they have out of the experience of doing this for so many years. Okay, so that is a clear strength that they have, and we have a lot to learn from that. The second thing is they believe in cannibalizing your own stuff. I mean, see, in the US, it's a mature market. It doesn't grow, right? So there's no growth. It's growing at some marginal percentage. So what does that mean? What does that mean for you people if you're working in a US company? What does that mean? What that means is it is a zero-sum game. If someone goes up, someone else is going down. Okay, not like India. India is everybody is growing, no problem. Life is good. Okay. When everyone is growing, it lulls you into a false sense of complacency. Because if you're growing at 10% and the market is growing at 30%, you're not doing good enough. Over there, market is not growing. So the only way you can win is if you outsell, you have to do something better than someone. So there is a drive for innovation because that is the only way you gain advantage. Which that kind of a hunger and a pressure is not there in India. That is why innovation will happen more over there than it will over here. And it will happen here as well. Let me tell you, the IT industry was not, the Indian domestic IT industry was very competitive. Okay, one of the few industries which has not had a standard leader in the early days. It kept on changing. Okay. So that's the difference between the US and India. The other thing is they tend to use capital to solve a problem. We will throw people at the problem. Meaning, and you can see this everywhere. I mean, for them, if you say, oh, this is a problem, they will say, okay, what is the best equipment I can buy? How can I automate this? What can happen? In India, we say, hey, we have this problem, we want to do this. Okay, 5 people. Okay. So it's a 180-degree phase shift between labor and capital. Okay. And I'm not saying we are not changing, we are all changing. I mean, today I don't think there is anything which you can generalize and say this is the way we think. There's some differences. I'm not saying all, but these are some fundamentals. And then the last thing I think which is important is, and this goes to entrepreneurship. In US, at least, trying and failing is okay. It's in fact carried as a badge of honor. You say, yeah, I started and it didn't do well. So what? Here, it's failing is still not very accepted in the Indian context. That's why I keep telling people that you have to realize that there's a difference between you and the venture you start, or the venture you start may not succeed. That doesn't mean you did not succeed. And there's a big difference. And the same is true. Just because your venture succeeded doesn't mean you succeeded as well. You can take it both ways.
How organized is the Indian IT sector? And there's a lot of brain drain occurring of Indian people going abroad and starting.
Whoever is speaking louder, can't hear your word. Not to me, to the class.
I just asked how organized is the Indian IT sector, and there's a lot of brain drain occurring in India for this IT sector. So what can be done to change this sector? I mean, there will be some system lags or some infrastructure lags in India which are stopping Indian IT sector to grow.
I don't think so, really. Frankly, I think there is a reverse brain drain happening. I mean, a lot of people are coming back.
That is primarily for jobs acquisition, right?
Well, that's good. Doesn't matter why they're coming back. So that's it. And if you see again, if you see countries like Korea, okay, Japan, they've all grown exactly the same way. There are people who left the country, were in the US, came back to Japan, came back to Korea, revitalized that industry there. So that's been a standard pattern, I mean, world over. Okay? And you're beginning to see that happen in the Indian context. Okay? And you're right, I mean, the mover may be that there are no jobs there. I'm not saying no, I'm not disagreeing with you. But it doesn't matter what causes the movement, as long as it is happening. Okay? So the brain drain, I think, is very clearly not as big a problem. People are no longer, you'll suddenly find the reverse true. There are a lot of people, I can say this with confidence, that I keep saying today, since all of you all will be going to the job market, maybe a year from today or whatever, you've got to realize that whatever be your profession, you're not competing with, you're competing with everyone in the world. You're competing with everyone in the world. That is the reality. So what that means is that, let us say you are the best, world's best manufacturing professional. Okay. Where should you be? If you're the best in manufacturing, where should you be?
In a growing economy.
Huh?
In a growing economy.
Growing, yeah. Which country?
China, India or China.
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 Right? If you are the world's best manufacturing guy, or aspire to be the best, and you have not visited China, you have not connected with China, you have not dealing with China, most likely you are not the best guy. So same thing is going to happen in software. Software, whether we like it or not, India is going to be one of the great places for software. So guess what? The most capable people in software from anywhere in the world should be working in India. Okay? And in fact, I had this discussion when I was on a trip to Canada. So there was this person who was saying, oh, we're trying to recruit some people here. I said, actually, I want people to work in India. So she was saying, why do you think that they would even agree? I said, this is what. If you're a world-class software professional, you should be working in India. If you're not, I mean, you may work 5 years, doesn't matter. But if you've not worked in India for 5 years, then how do you claim you are a world-class professional?
So if foreign students are seeking jobs in India.
Absolutely. And India is a growing place. That's the other aspect of it. But same thing, I mean, today if you say automobiles, the best automobiles, Germany, Japan, these names come to mind. So if you've not worked there or dealt with them, you cannot change it. So you've got to be associated with, you know, so it is a global marketplace. So if you are a management student, then you've got to be the best management student there is. You have no choice. I mean, I tell that to my sons as well. You have no choice. Because there's someone else out there in the world who is going to eat your lunch. It may not seem that way, but that is true. I don't think anyone in the US thought that India would start building